Welcome to the Real Estate Update Podcast. We focus on homebuyer education because knowledge is power. I'm your host, Paul Centopani, and joining me today is Jenna Gonzalez, Associate Director of Capital Markets at Veterans United. Jenna, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Now, you manage the underwriting guidelines at Veterans United, and underwriting guidelines are the parameters that lenders use to make their approval decisions.
That's correct.
Now, I want to start at the ground floor. How does a lender establish these rules?
It's a great question because I think that's a little gray for borrowers. They don't get to talk to the underwriters. They don't get to see what guidelines we're really looking at. So I'd love to open that up a little bit more. When we're starting with guidelines, look at our guidelines as a lender. You're starting with your base agency guidelines. Now that is, we have different loan types. We have FHA, VA loan types, and then we have conventional loan types, which follow Freddie and Fannie agencies. All of those loan types have different organizations that dictate what guidelines are in place for you to be able to originate that loan. So at the very base level, every lender, if you're going to originate those loan types, you have to meet agency guidelines. Now, you could just stop there. If you retain all of your loans or if you're keeping all of your loans on your books as a lender, you could just meet agency guidelines and sell directly to the agencies or just keep your loans yourself. But most people don't operate that way. They have to go a different level and they have to consider investor guidelines. So if you're going to sell your loans in the secondary market, you have to consider what guidelines do your investors that you're selling to have in place. And we call those overlays.
Can you give an example of an overlay that VU uses?
Yeah, absolutely. So we primarily do VA loans, and the VA itself doesn't actually set a minimum credit score, but most lenders do have a minimum credit score that they'll consider. Ours happens to be 620. That's pretty standard in the industry, and that would be considered an overlay, but it's just a very basic risk threshold that the lender is comfortable with lending on.
So you make the guidelines and then they change because things change.
Right.
What is the process for changing those guidelines?
So we don't have like a set cadence of when we're changing guidelines at VU. I think everyone does this a little differently, but speaking to what VU does, we, of course, when the agencies change their guidelines, we're going to react to that and we'll, of course, follow suit and change the guidelines to meet those. But then we're also, on our side, we have a risk team in place that meets biweekly. And we get feedback from the loan teams that are selling the loans, from our servicing team that's servicing the loans, across the board from underwriters, and they give us feedback on what we could consider changing. Now, we're looking at changing things for clarity sometimes. So sometimes our guidelines are written in a way that maybe isn't easily understood by loan teams. So we're looking to change just simply the wording of a guideline and putting that out to the floor. But a lot of times we're actually looking to expand or restrict guidelines based on loan performance in our portfolio. So at VU, we are really fortunate to have our own portfolio of loans. We service around 150,000 borrowers. So that means we have 150,000 opportunities to see how did our guidelines actually play out in real life. We can see how our borrowers are performing, and that tells us if our guidelines are working or not. Now, if that portfolio performance changes, we're going to look at that very closely and see what guidelines maybe should we change to maybe take on some more risk because our portfolio is performing really well, but we could maybe allow some more risk in there. Or maybe some areas are, going delinquent more often than we want. And so we might tighten up in some areas. So we look at that. And of course, we get the feedback from our risk teams. We meet biweekly. We talk about what we want to change. And that usually ends up looking at like monthly changes for us. Like last year, we changed around 50 guidelines, and that was just a few a month, of course. And then, of course, reacting to all those agency guideline changes that could come at us at any time. And we're expected to change those as soon as we can.
And when you say agencies, you're talking about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac?
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and then we have FHA and the VA. They all have
Okay.
different agencies, and USDA. They all have the different agency guidelines they put out for us.
Awesome. So you and the risk team meet and you change things as you see fit. Who makes up the risk team?
So ours at VU is pretty large, actually. We have our underwriting team. We have under my umbrella, our credit manager, and of course, our production teams. That's our loan officer. We call them coaches, but loan officer trainers. We have loan coordinator trainers. Anyone that would be impacted by our guideline changes is involved in those conversations so that we can really pressure test any changes that we're making and make sure it's impacting the floor in a way that makes sense. And so we get together those teams pretty often to talk through them.
And you said about 50 changes last year. What kind of market shifts inspired changes to be made?
Yeah. So, a good example of a market shift, I mean, the shifts happen all the time, but a really good example would be a few years ago, we had noticed that as we shift to more of a seller's market, a lot of our veterans were having a hard time getting seller credits. So, we were put in this position where veterans historically were used to getting some seller credits to take care of closing costs, whereas they weren't around 2022, 2023. So, seeing that adjustment in the market, we adjusted on our end and we opened up what we called closing cost assistance loans. So, we had to open up our guidelines and open up a new product actually to help veterans get into homes using this product to cover the closing costs. That's just a pretty specific example. It's a good thing though to see as this market changes, whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market or, different levers are being pulled by the agencies to help with affordability. We're also doing the same internally. We're watching how loans are performing, but we're also watching how our borrowers are impacted in even getting the homes, and we're adjusting guidelines there as well.
Gotcha. So you try to make it a win-win. More
Right.
borrowers can borrow, you guys get more. All right. That's how the
Yeah.
business works. That's cool. Now, how did Vue's underwriting guidelines change last year?
So last year we took a step back and just looked at okay, we do sell to investors, a portion of our loans that we originate. So we do have to abide by some investor overlays. And, over the course of 10, 15 years we've been selling to investors, we've accumulated quite a bit of overlays that really want to reconsider and say, does this really make sense? Is this following in our risk philosophy? Every lender has their own risk strategy and philosophy that they use to carry out their guidelines. At VU, ours is pretty simple. It's we're trying to put people in homes when they're ready for home ownership. So that means we're looking for two things with our guidelines. Do you have the ability to repay? So you have the assets and the income monthly to be able to pay your mortgage, right? That's important. And
Got
then
to have that money, of
secondly,
course.
right. And then secondly, do you have the willingness to repay? And that looks like your credit behavior. So maybe you have the ability, you have the income coming in, but your behavior on your credit report maybe doesn't look like you have the willingness. So our guidelines are looking to cover both of those areas, of course. And if you're ready for home ownership, we're ready to get you into a home. And so that's the philosophy that we use when we're writing every single guideline. And so last year, when we took a look at our guidelines, we thought there's some opportunities to expand here and not actually take on that much more risk and still get borrowers in homes when they're ready for it. So we looked at our portfolio, looked at how specific scenarios were performing with our guidelines, and we expanded. For example, we dropped our credit score from a 660 or a 640 to 620 for some different property types. Manufactured homes was one of those. That's a big affordability product. And we watched how those were performing. They weren't performing too differently from our other product or other property types. So we changed our guideline and it opened up some opportunities for borrowers. We've done a few different guideline changes along those lines, but all of it was let's get back to the basics. Let's go back to our philosophy and make sure we're getting people in homes when they're ready. And so we cleaned up a lot of guidelines last year that really aligned us with agency and our own risk tolerance.
And now that 40-point credit score swing, I would imagine that opens up the borrower pool by a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, in the manufactured home space, it's a smaller pool, but we did another guideline change where we actually increased our VA loan limit to 2.5 million. Now that also opens up loan pool on the other side. So we do a lot of tweaks that opens up the opportunities for a lot of borrowers. One guideline change isn't going to impact a ton of borrowers necessarily, but the constant change and small tweaks we make, that's making sure our pool is pretty broad.
Now, does every lender follow the same guidelines or make changes at the same time?
Absolutely not. So it's funny. I always like to tell people we're all given the same playbook, right? The agencies give us the same guidelines. We can all look at the same exact guideline, but interpret it differently. And then, of course, you're always using in the back of your mind the way you're applying those guidelines is dependent on your own risk strategy and your company's philosophy, right? So ours is get people in homes when they're ready for home ownership. So that's the way we implement each guideline. We're really lucky at VU. We, of course, focus on VA loans, and the VA guidelines are actually pretty gray. It leaves a ton of opportunity for interpretation, which we absolutely love because we're very confident in how we underwrite for VA loans, right? Not every lender is like that. They might look at the VA product and say, oh, they don't speak to a certain situation. So we're actually not going to allow that in our underwriting guidelines. Whereas we have so much experience as well as that portfolio I mentioned, we can open up a lot of things and feel really confident in operating that gray area. So lenders are looking at the same agency guidelines. Some of them, again, might just follow agency and move on from there. Those will be a little bit more black and white on the conventional side. And then again, on the VA side, it's a little bit more gray. And then some lenders are selling to investors, like I mentioned, so they consider their overlays. And then most importantly, every lender is going to have their own risk tolerance. And it just depends on what they're focusing on, what their experience is, and what they feel comfortable with.
Okay. So not all lenders are created equal. You got to shop
Mm,
around and find what works best for you.
absolutely.
Now, the agencies, what underwriting changes came straight from them this year?
Actually, there's been a ton of changes in the agencies in the last month or so that are really exciting. So, affordability is always a focus of the agencies, and this year we're seeing them really take some action to help with affordability. The first one is from Freddie and Fannie that I want to talk about. It's about insurance. So, if you're buying a home, I'm sure you've looked at some insurance quotes and you thought maybe had some sticker shock from how much it costs to cover your home with your residential homeowners insurance. And the agencies have seen that, and one of the levers they could pull was allowing different coverage types. So previously, they required replacement cost coverage for the entire policy. That simply means, hey, if something happens to your home, your insurance agent is going to cover, insurance company is going to pay whatever it costs to completely replace that home for you. Even if the cost changes, 10 years from now, they're going to cover the entire replacement. There's actual cash value coverage that would just give you the cash. Basically, it's depreciated value. It just gives you the cash that was worth at the time of the policy, which will be less money, less coverage, right? So, because the agencies required replacement cost coverage, some of our borrowers were having a really hard time even finding that kind of policy because of the type of property they were in or the area they lived in. And so recently, the agencies announced they would allow actual cash value, that depreciated value, on roof only. And that gives you a little less coverage on the roof, but honestly, that's not enough to be so significantly risky for our borrowers that lenders felt good about it doing it, and it saves money for our borrowers up front. And it opened up so many people their opportunity to get homeowners insurance. So that change was announced about a month ago, and lenders are really excited about it. So that insurance change is going to help more people get into homes because they're going to be able to find policies that they can actually move forward with on these loan types.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I've heard horror stories in certain parts of the countries. The insurance market, greatly impacted by climate crisis, and those costs are driven so high that they're making homes uninsurable altogether in some places.
Exactly. And so that small tweak that really helps our borrowers out. And they have a few, that's an example of expanding. They've also tightened up a little bit in out of, just looking out for the borrower in the condo space. So condos, people are buying condos all across the country, and Fannie and Freddie, if you're getting a conventional loan, would follow those guidelines. And they just recently announced they're going to tighten up a little bit on the condo space. Now, that sounds unfortunate for borrowers if you're looking for a condo, but it's actually more of a protection for you. The things they're tightening up on are, hey, let's make sure your HOA is being run efficiently and it has some reserves, some cash reserves. So, should you need any kind of replacement or repair around the condo, you're going to have enough money in your bank over there so they can cover it without having to come to you and charge you to cover for the repair. So that is a change that's going to actually restrict a lot of HOAs based on our experience. Many HOAs aren't actually managed in a way that has at least documented assets of that manner. So that is going to tighten up a little bit, but it's better for borrowers. It's a protection for you. You want to live in a space with a condo association that's run very efficiently and make sure that you're not going to get a big bill should something happen unexpectedly.
Yeah, you don't want an HOA that runs a loose ship.
No.
So no, it just snowballs into bad things. If a borrower doesn't meet a lender's underwriting standards, what recourse can they take?
It's a great question because I think some people will call, the first few loan officers they talk to, and maybe they don't meet the guidelines at the time. And so they get a little discouraged. And it is different for every lender, of course. Again, falling in their own risk tolerance, they're going to have their own guidelines to follow. At VU, especially on the veteran side, we have so much experience that if you don't fit perfectly into our guidelines, we actually have a team that's under my umbrella that will look at your loan. It's a team of about 15 people. They're everything from loan officers to underwriters background, and they're looking okay, this maybe doesn't fit perfectly into our guidelines, but we still think this borrower is ready for home ownership. So we're going to figure out what we can do to make this make sense, and we can move the loan forward. We saved around 6,000 loans last year with our team, just looking at loans that on the surface didn't meet our guidelines. But if you dug in and you got some more information from the borrower, then we were actually able to make that work. So having again that wealth of experience with the VA loan has helped us open that up a little bit, but also having that portfolio where I can say, okay, maybe your credit score isn't where it needs to be, but do you have other compensating factors that I can consider? And maybe that changes the performance and my risk appetite with that borrower specifically.
So you could kind of bend one of the rules a little bit if they have other things that are helping them out.
Yeah, we have that ability. Lenders, always do it differently, but I would say if you're talking to a lender and you have a denial for a specific reason, just keep calling. There's lenders out there that will have different guidelines and different risk tolerances. So, and if you're, of course, a veteran or even looking for another loan type, you got to call us. We can help you out in a lot of ways.
And Jenna, last question for all my guests. What is your top advice for first-time home buyers right now?
I think if I was looking for to buy my first home, I would be really specific about who I'm working with on the loan officer front. And I think that's important. You want to work with a really experienced real estate agent too. They're going to help you, throughout the entire process. The mortgage process can be kind of complicated and it can be scary, and it's the biggest transaction of your life, right? And so your financial transaction of your life. And you want to make sure that someone is helping you step by step through the way in a way that makes sense to you. They're not speaking, industry jargon and things like that. They're just a real person talking to you and helping you through the process. And I think if I was looking to buy a home, that would be the most important to me, is get someone that I trust on the other side of the transaction. So I feel really comfortable about what I'm moving forward
Okay, that is as sound advice as you can give.
with.
Trust the people you're working with for one of the biggest financial decisions of your life.
Absolutely.
Well, Jenna, thank you so much for lending us your insights. I know I learned a ton today. This is the Real Estate Update Podcast, and I hope to see you next time.